Ghana, the real African giant? Let's stop lying to ourselves. Let's stop repeating what we've been told without questioning it. For decades, one phrase has echoed across Africa and beyond. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. It's been said so often that it feels like truth. It's been repeated so many times that it feels unquestionable. But today we are going to question it. We are going to challenge it. We are going to break it down. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Africa does not need a giant in name. Africa needs a giant in action. So the question is simple, but the answer, controversial. Is Nigeria truly Africa's giant? Is South Africa a better candidate? Or has a quieter, more intentional nation been overlooked? Let's talk about Ghana, the myth of the giant. Before we compare countries, we must define the word. What is a giant? Is a giant a country with the largest population? A country with the most natural resources? A country with the biggest economy? Or is a giant a nation that leads? A nation that inspires? A nation that sets the standard for others to follow? Because if we're honest, we've been measuring the wrong things. Nigeria has over 200 million people. It has oil. It has influence in entertainment, culture, and business. But let's be brutally honest. Has Nigeria's size translated into continental leadership? Or has it become a case of unfulfilled potential? Because potential without execution is not greatness. Nigeria, the loud giant. Let's address Nigeria directly. Nigeria is powerful, no doubt. Its music dominates Africa. Its films reach millions. Its entrepreneurs are everywhere. But here's the real question. Is Nigeria leading Africa, or just dominating conversations? Because leadership is not about visibility alone. Leadership is about stability, direction, and responsibility. And this is where the cracks begin to show. A nation called a giant should protect its citizens, provide consistent infrastructure, and create an environment where talent thrives. Yet millions still face insecurity, unreliable systems, and economic instability. So we must ask, if a giant cannot stabilize itself, how can it lead a continent? South Africa, the structured giant? Now let's bring South Africa into the conversation. For years, many have argued that South Africa, and not Nigeria, deserves the title. Why? Because it is industrialized, globally connected, and economically structured. On paper, it looks like a giant. But reality tells a more complicated story. South Africa struggles with deep inequality, social division, recurring unrest, and xenophobic tensions. And here's the critical issue. A giant that is internally divided cannot unify others. Leadership is not just about economic strength, it is about moral authority, and when a nation struggles to hold itself together, its ability to lead others becomes limited. Ghana, the quiet contender. Now let's talk about Ghana. Not the biggest, not the loudest, not the richest. So why is Ghana even in this conversation? Because greatness is not always obvious. Sometimes it is intentional, sometimes it is consistent, and sometimes it is historical. The foundation of leadership. History. If we are going to talk about giants, we must go back to the beginning. At a time when much of Africa was still under colonial rule, Ghana stood up. Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African nation to gain independence. But it didn't stop there. Under Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana became the voice of African liberation, the center of Pan-African thought, and the spark that ignited independence movements across the continent. Nkrumah didn't just think about Ghana, he thought about Africa. And that is the difference. A giant does not think only of itself. A giant thinks of the whole. Pan-Africanism, the real measure. Pan-Africanism is not a slogan, it is a responsibility. It is the belief that Africa must unite, collaborate, and rise together. So here's the question, which nation embodies Pan-Africanism today? Ghana has consistently positioned itself as a welcoming home for the diaspora, promoted African unity on the global stage, and embraced its role as a cultural and historical anchor. The year of return was not just tourism, it was a message. Africa remembers you, Africa welcomes you back. That is not just policy, that is leadership. Let's talk about something that rarely trends, but defines greatness: stability. Ghana has built a reputation for peaceful elections, democratic continuity, and political maturity. And while it may not dominate headlines, it has mastered something many nations still struggle with: consistency. Because here's the truth: a giant is not the one that shines once. A giant is the one that remains steady over time. Ghana does not have the largest resources, but it demonstrates something critical: efficiency. It shows that management matters more than abundance, structure matters more than size, and discipline matters more than noise. And this raises a powerful question. What is more impressive? A nation with everything that struggles to organize itself, or a nation with less that maximizes what it has? Influence versus impact. Nigeria has influence, South Africa has structure, but Ghana has impact. Influence can be loud, impact is lasting, and Africa today does not need noise, it needs results. So let's redefine the word. A giant is not the loudest, the largest, or the richest. A giant is the most consistent, the most visionary, and the most unifying. And when you apply that definition, the conversation changes. So I ask you honestly, when Africa needs direction, unity, and inspiration, which nation is stepping up? Is it the one with the biggest numbers, or the one quietly building a model for others to follow? Ghana may not dominate headlines, it may not control the largest economy, but it represents something deeper: intentional leadership. And in a new Africa, an Africa that is redefining itself, that matters more than ever. This is not about diminishing Nigeria. This is not about dismissing South Africa. This is about challenging Africa to think differently, to stop celebrating potential, and start recognizing performance. Because Africa deserves a giant that does more than exist. Africa deserves a giant that leads. And maybe, just maybe, that giant is Ghana. Now it's your turn. Who is Africa's true giant? Nigeria? South Africa? Ghana? Or is the title still up for debate? Comment below. Let's have the conversation Africa has been avoiding. If we're serious about redefining Africa's giant from a Pan-African perspective, then countries like Egypt, Tanzania, Burkina Faso, and Ethiopia absolutely deserve to be in the conversation, but for different reasons. Let's break it down honestly and critically. Egypt. The historical giant Egypt is undeniably one of Africa's most powerful nations. An ancient civilization and global influence, strong military and strategic geopolitical position. Egypt controls the Suez Canal, which is the global trade lifeline. But here's the tension: Egypt's identity has often been more aligned with the Middle East than Pan-African unity. A global heavyweight, yes, but not consistently a Pan-African leader in the modern sense. Ethiopia, the symbol of African resistance. Ethiopia carries immense symbolic power, never colonized except brief Italian occupation, home of the African Union, with deep historical and cultural identity. Egypt represents African dignity and independence, but internal conflicts, ethnic tensions, and economic challenges. A symbolic giant, especially historically, but current instability limits its continental leadership role. Tanzania, the ideological giant. Under Julius Nyerere, Tanzania stood for African unity, socialist development, ujamaa, and support for liberation movements. Even today, it maintains relative peace, political stability, and strong national identity, but less economic and global influence, lower visibility on the continental stage. A moral and ideological giant, but not a dominant continental force. Burkina Faso, the revolutionary giant. Burkina Faso, especially under Thomas Sankara, became a symbol of anti-imperialism, self-reliance, and African pride. Today, it again attracts attention for resisting foreign influence. But political instability, security challenges, and limited economic power. A revolutionary voice, but not yet a stable or consistent leader. So, where does that leave the debate? Each country represents a different kind of giant. Egypt, power and history; Ethiopia, identity and resistance; Tanzania, ideology and unity; Burkina Faso, revolution and defiance; Ghana, stability, Pan-Africanism and consistency; Nigeria, scale and cultural dominance; South Africa, economic structure and global access. With smooth pans and country callouts, no VO. The real conclusion. Maybe the problem is not who the giant is. Maybe the problem is the idea that only one country can be. Because Africa is not a competition, it's a collective civilization. But if we must still ask, the modern giant should be the nation that best combines stability, vision, continental responsibility, Pan-African commitment, and that's why Ghana keeps coming up in this debate. So now the question becomes deeper. Do we choose a giant based on power or based on purpose? Because depending on your answer, your Africa's giant will change.